Hello. Today I would like to talk about IPFire project. So IPFire is an open source Linux-based firewall operating system with a lot of features. So this is its website, and so it is uh, operating system distribution, and everything is built from scratch. So there is like a Linux from scratch for everything. And so actually you can, if you go to the development, documentation development, there is a build how to, so you can actually build the operating system and by yourself. Okay, so this is the steps to build the IPFire OS distribution. And also you can add your own packages or software. So this is how you build an add-on. Clear documentation here. Okay. So I followed this build how to build the IPFire distribution, and also with some add-on, because my interest is in the kernel BPF feature. By default, the IPFire official distribution does not have kernel BPF BTF enabled. So but I wanted to run a BPF program on IPFire distribution, so I built a libBPF add-on and also enable the kernel BPF. So yeah, so here is I followed the build how to, and after you finish the build, it will have it will create a few file here. So this file is for virtual machine. Like you can run this image on a KVM hypervisor, and this ISO file is you can install on a real hardware computer. Yeah, so for convenience, I'm going to try this virtual machine image, and so here I copied it. I convert the image to QCal2, and copied the image to named IPFire 2 BPF image file. Okay, so now I'm going to run it in a KVM hypervisor with libvirt. So I have IPFire B file, XML file, libvirt XML file, and this is where I see the image. I pointed to the IPFire 2 image, and yeah, KVM and memory, CPU. Okay, and for network, I have two network interface. Yeah, so by the way, you must have at least two network interface for the IPFire OS distribution, because when it start up, it will detect the number of network interfaces you have. If you have only one, it will not the setup will not success. So yeah, okay, so let's start it from scratch and define this virtual machine, IPFire virtual machine instance. Okay, we started, and now we defined the guest domain, and then we can start this IPFire B instance. Okay, we started. And now we can console into this guest and see the boot up message. So by the way, also the so here's the console serial console message for the instance. And by default, the official IPFire image does not have a serial console enabled in the graph, so that's a little bit inconvenient. So in my build, I enabled the serial console in the graph, and so I can see this boot log message. And also, so the first time when you load the when you start up the virtual instance, the virtual machine, it will give you this setup menu to set up the IPFire. And if you install the ISO file into a real hardware machine, you will also see this setup menu to set up IPFire. So we can. So that's the reason I also enabled the serial console for the virtual machine image, because it's convenient, right? From the console, we can start up the setup. We can configure the setup, and yeah, let's do it. Let's choose the time zone. Here is US Pacific. And let's give a name. Let's give an IPFire B, because I enabled the BPF feature in the kernel. So I like to name it as a IPFire B, B meaning BPF. Okay, local domain. Use default password. Here is the IPFire root password. Let's type in. So now this is admin password for the GUI login. Okay, so now here is a network configuration menu. So you can now I have a two network interface. So that's the simple common network configuration, like green and red. So green interface is for your local network, your home network, and the red interface is where you connect to your ISP provider, internet provider. So that's the internet side interface. So I only have two network interface. So let's use green and red. And here we choose the interface for the Mac, the interface for the green or red. And here we needed to actually make sure we choose the right interface. So let's log into the hypervisor from another SSH window. And we want to check on the hypervisor with the right network interface. So here I have two on the hypervisor. I have two bridge, BR0, BR3. So the virtual machine use the virtual instance from these two bridge setup on the hypervisor. So this is the virtual interface for, this is the virtual interface on the BR0 bridge. This is a virtual interface on the second bridge. So this bridge is my internet-facing interface bridge. So this bridge is for my local home network. So so this is a virtual interface, and from here we can see the internet-facing side has the MAC address here 56 BC. So that's the virtual interface we want to use for the red interface. The red interface, remember, is the internet-facing interface. Okay, so let's come here. Let's do the red interface first. And this is 56 BC. The MAC address is the internet side facing interface. So we choose this MAC address. Okay. So now we choose green interface. The other one is the home network interface. Okay. So now we choose the right MAC address for the interface, for the red-green interface. Now it's the network address setup. So let's do green first. So remember, green interface is for our home network. That's where our home router address supposed to be. So usually our home .router or firewall, let's give the default one. Most of the home router use this 192.168.1.1 as a default IP address, home router IP address. So yeah, that's the green interface. So for this red, usually we use DHCP, right? Because the internet provider will assign a dynamic IP address for your internet home router. Yeah, so let's use the DHCP. Okay. Done. Okay, here is to ask if you want to enable your home router firewall with DHCP services, so you can, so the router can assign dynamic IP address to your home computers. And yes, we enable the DHCP server, and the start address is let's give it 50. Okay, let's click OK. Setup is complete. Okay. Yeah, so we completed the network configuration for the for this IPFire virtual instance. Let's wait for it to start up. Okay, so now we have the login prompt. Let's log in with our root password. Okay, now we logged in. Let's check the IP address first. So remember the green interface. We have this IP address set up. That's our home router IP address. So this red interface, that's the internet facing side interface. So this is the IP address, the DHCP assigned dynamic IP address 10.0.0.251 because I am using my home network lab to simulate this setup. So this is not a real internet IP address, public or routable IP address. This is just my home network. I used for this lab simulation. So yeah, and by default you will have web access to this home router IP address. But I don't, in my lab simulation I cannot access this home network router GUI interface. So I have to use to have web access to this internet site simulation web interface. So I needed to add so I'll show you what's the IP table rules set up by the IP firewall. So you can see here the IPFire web interface by default use the port 444. So like in your home router setup, when you have this initial setup, then you should be able to connect to this internal router IP address with port 444. Then you will have the web interface access. And but since in my lab situation I cannot access here this IP address, I can access this red interface in my home lab setup. So but by default the internet site facing web access is denied for security, right? Yeah, so you don't want your public facing internet site has open web access. But in my lab I needed to enable the access so I can demo. So let's just use IP tables to add append web access rule. Go to the red 0 interface. Yeah, so in your case you don't need to do this. This is just for my lab. J accept. Okay. So right now I enabled the web access on the red interface. Now let's go to the browser. So wait again, what's the IP address here? 251, okay? 251. Port 444, HTTPS, okay? Let's so now we have this. Let's continue. So now it's asked for the web admin password. Let's log in here. So the first thing is license agreement. Let's click yes, accept the terms and conditions. Okay, so now we have this web interface here. This is the internet site with the internet IP address, and this is your home router internal IP address. Yeah, so now there is like these menus you can go through, and so in my setup, I also added the language option here. So like see here, I can choose the say Chinese language, and if I save, see here now it's a Chinese menu, right? So but then let's use English for the demonstration. Also here, the SSH access is disabled. So if you want to enable SSH access, you can enable SSH access. Okay, let's enable SSH access. And so the SSH access is labeled for the internal home router IP address. And so for the public side, you will not have SSH access. But in my lab, I can only access the public read interface. So I need to add IP table rules for let's put it in the GUI also. Read interface. Yeah, again, so you don't need to do this if you want to use. Because usually when you set up the home route IPFire home router, you should have internal access to the web GUI by default, and then you enable after you enable the SSH access on the website on the web, you should be able to access SSH access. But this is just when I added this rule is just for my lab simulation. Okay, so I added this read interface. So now I should be able to SSH into the IP firewall 251, right? That's the IP address. So now we are on the IPFire distribution virtual interface, the red interface, the green interface. Okay. Yeah. So this is the initial setup. It's very easy setup, and you don't need to do this. And yeah, so once you have this setup, if you connected your home computer to the internal or local home network, you should have a IP address assigned, and then you should be able to go to internet. Yeah, so next time I will talk more about the BPF feature I enabled on this IPFire distribution. Yeah, thanks for watching.